People love to use the lion as a symbol. You see it everywhere on shirts, tattoos, Instagram captions. King of the jungle. But most people misunderstand what makes a lion so powerful. They think it's about dominance, aggression, roaring the loudest. That's not it. A lion's strength doesn't come from brute force. It comes from presence, from a deeply rooted sense of identity, from belief. You see, the lion isn't the biggest animal in the wild. It's not the fastest. It's not the strongest. If you compare stats, size, speed, bite force, other animals beat it. So why does the lion still reign? Because it believes it does. When the lion sees an elephant, it doesn't hesitate. It doesn't shrink. It doesn't calculate the elephant's weight or second guess itself. It sees prey. It moves forward. That's what separates lions from every other animal. Not their physical traits. Their mindset. Confidence without arrogance. That's what we're talking about. Now, let's be real. Most people in life are waiting to feel ready before they act. Waiting to be stronger, smarter, richer, more experienced. They're caught in this mental trap of preparation. Always waiting for the right moment to become someone they already are. But lions don't operate that way. A lion doesn't check the weather before it hunts. It doesn't ask, am I enough? It moves. And in moving, it confirms its identity. You don't become confident by reading about it or waiting for external validation. You build it by acting, especially when it's uncomfortable. Every time you step forward, when your mind tells you to step back, you train yourself to think like a lion. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you're programming your brain for greatness. And here's the deeper layer. Psychologically speaking, confidence is not a feeling, it's a habit. It's a mental muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Neuroscience shows us this. Your brain literally rewires itself based on repetition. So if you constantly shrink, avoid, or hesitate, you're not just being passive. You're training your identity to be passive. But if you show up boldly, even if you fail, you're reinforcing the idea. I am someone who takes action. That belief, that's what makes lions lethal. Now, arrogance, that's a different story. Arrogance is rooted in insecurity. It's loud, it's performative. The lion doesn't need to roar all the time to prove it's in charge. It knows. It walks differently. And when people truly believe in themselves, when they've done the internal work. They don't need to convince the world. Their presence speaks for them. Think about Jack Ma. He wasn't born into privilege. He failed his college entrance exams twice. He was rejected from dozens of jobs, including KFC. Most people would have taken those rejections as proof they weren't good enough. But not him. He believed in a vision no one else could see. He didn't roar, he built. Quietly, consistently, with clarity. That's the lion mindset. Not loud, not showy. Just focused, relentless belief. And that's the kind of belief you need to restart your life. Because starting over is not a sign of weakness. It's a declaration of courage. It's you saying, I am not defined by where I've been, I am defined by where I'm going. Lions don't carry yesterday into the hunt. They show up in the now, alert, present, intentional. Here's where philosophy comes in. Stoic thinkers, like Marcus Aurelius, taught that it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. The lion doesn't interpret, it acts. It doesn't internalize failure, it recalibrates. So when you adopt this mindset, you begin to see setbacks not as threats to your worth, but as tests of your alignment, tests of your patience, tests of your belief. And the lion doesn't run from the test. It's easy to doubt yourself when you've made mistakes. When people around you don't believe in your vision, when the path isn't clear. But that's exactly when you have to lean in. You have to believe before the world believes. Because the world doesn't reward doubt. It rewards those who move with certainty, even in uncertainty. So ask yourself, are you thinking like prey? Waiting for permission? Or are you thinking like a lion? Moving with intention? Believing without guarantees? Your next move doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. Controlled. Grounded. Aligned with your vision. Not anyone else's expectations. This is how you restart your life, not with noise, not with chaos, but with conviction. With quiet, focused courage. With the kind of self-belief that doesn't need to announce itself. Because when you think like a lion, you don't follow opportunity. You become the opportunity. Most people think power is loud. That strength comes from constant action, hustle, movement, noise. But real power is quiet, strategic, patient. And if you want to think like a lion, you have to understand this deeply. The lion doesn't chase every noise in the jungle. It waits, watches. It chooses when to act. That's what makes it dangerous. Not just the claws, not just the roar, but the discipline behind the decision. You see, we live in a world that celebrates speed. Everyone wants to be first. Everyone's posting, sharing, reacting. There's this obsession with doing more and doing it faster. But lions are never in a rush. They know exactly who they are and what they're capable of, so they're not panicking when the opportunity isn't immediate. They're not making desperate moves to be seen. They wait because they understand timing is everything. This mindset requires a deep level of self-trust. And trust, in this context, doesn't just mean belief in your skills. It means belief in your strategy. It means the psychological maturity to delay gratification, to not jump at everything that looks like a quick win, and to trust that your moment is coming as long as you stay sharp. Jack Ma talks about this. There's a story he tells often about how, after being rejected so many times, and after founding Alibaba, he would still sit in silence and think, reflect, strategize. He didn't allow urgency to control him. When others were trying to scale quickly, chase valuation, or expand recklessly, he focused on building something sustainable. He moved like a lion, not with force, with intelligence. This is where the real lesson lies. If you want to restart your life, if you're trying to change direction, break old patterns, create something meaningful, you can't afford to waste energy chasing distractions. You have to be selective. Lions chase rabbits. They know that not every movement is worth the energy. And in life, not every opportunity is worth your attention. Not every conversation deserves your response. Not every door is meant to be opened. But here's the paradox. This kind of discipline can feel like doing nothing. And that's uncomfortable, especially for people used to being in motion. There's a fear in stillness. It feels like falling behind. But listen carefully. Stillness is not stagnation. Stillness is calculated energy. It's where reflection lives. It's where clarity is found. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once said, all of humanity's problems, from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. That quote holds even more weight today, because the truth is very few people can handle stillness. They get anxious. They start doubting themselves. They confuse action with progress. So they jump from job to job, from one idea to another, from relationship to relationship, thinking movement equals momentum. But movement without meaning is just noise. It's the mental equivalent of running in circles. Now, let's apply this to you. Maybe you're in a phase where nothing seems to be happening. No big wins. No applause. You're rebuilding, restarting, maybe even doubting if any of this is working. That's when you need to think like a lion. You're not failing. You're positioning. There's something powerful in patience, in watching everything around you, the landscape, the players, the timing, and waiting until your next move is undeniable. And here's where we dig deeper. Psychologically, the ability to delay gratification is one of the greatest indicators of long-term success. There are countless studies on this. The famous Stanford marshmallow experiment, for example, showed that the children who were able to wait for a second marshmallow rather than grabbing the first one ended up more successful, more focused, and more disciplined as adults. Why? Because they had control. They weren't ruled by impulse. They could see beyond the now. This ability to control your impulses, to resist reacting, to hold your ground when everything in you wants to leap. That's the inner lion. That's not weakness. That's restraint. And restraint is a high form of power. It means you're not acting from fear. You're not chasing out of desperation. You're calculating. You're observing. You're waiting for your moment. And when that moment comes, you don't miss. You strike. This is the mindset that separates those who burn out from those who break through. The ones who are always on usually don't last. They wear themselves down chasing things that don't matter. But the ones who think like lions, the ones who train themselves to wait without weakening, they build something that endures. So don't let the world rush you. Don't measure your progress by someone else's pace. Your silence isn't failure. Your stillness isn't weakness. It's focus. It's preparation. It's strategy. And strategy wins because when you move like a lion, you don't just act. You dominate at the right time, in the right place, for the right reason. Let that be your reminder. Power isn't about noise. It's about knowing when to roar and when not to. Most people don't realize they're following the herd until it's too late. They wake up one day and wonder why they feel disconnected, burned out, uninspired. And the answer is simple. They've been walking someone else's path. They've been taught to follow, not to lead, but if you want to think like a lion, if you're serious about restarting your life, you have to stop moving with the crowd and start moving with conviction. Lions don't follow the herd. They watch it. And then they decide. They don't move just because others are moving. They don't chase popularity or convenience. They lead, not through force, but through clarity, through alignment, through belief in their own direction, even if it's unpopular, misunderstood, or lonely. That's a hard path. And let's be honest, most people avoid it because leading your life means taking full responsibility. There's no one to blame, no one to hide behind, no excuses. You're no longer reacting to life. You're creating it. And that scares people. It's easier to follow trends. Easier to do what everyone else is doing and pretend it's your choice. But deep down, you know it isn't. Deep down, you feel the cost of not being authentic. When you follow the herd, you sacrifice your intuition. You outsource your decision making to society, to your peers, to people who don't even know your potential. But lions don't live like that. Lions don't wait for permission. They move when they decide. They hunt their own way. They don't explain. They don't justify. They lead themselves. That's the essence of power. Let's connect this to real life. How many people go to college, not because they want to, but because it's what they're supposed to do? How many take jobs, start careers, even relationships, not from passion, but from pressure, from the fear of being different, from the fear of disappointing others. And then they wonder why they feel empty, why nothing feels meaningful. It's because they were never leading their own life. They were just performing in someone else's script. Jack Ma talks about this very thing. He was told he wasn't good enough, rejected from over 30 jobs. KFC turned him down. Harvard rejected him 10 times. Every logical voice told him he didn't belong. If he had followed the herd, he would have quit, played it safe, taken a government job. But he didn't. He led. He had a vision no one else understood, and he followed it anyway. That's leadership. That's what thinking like a lion looks like in real life. Now, here's the deeper layer: psychological independence. Because true leadership starts internally. It means you trust your judgment more than others' approval. And that's rare. Our education systems, our social systems, they train us to obey, to fit in, to perform. Not to question. not to lead. So when you start thinking like a lion, it's not just a mindset shift. It's a full identity shift. You're stepping into who you really are, not who the world told you to be. Philosophers like Nietzsche called this the will to power, not power over others, power over yourself. The ability to rise above the herd, to forge your own values, your own meaning, your own path. He said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. That's what this is about. The courage to stand alone, not out of ego, but out of authenticity. You have to ask yourself, am I living from alignment or from approval? Because those two things rarely coexist. Approval feels good in the moment, but it keeps you locked into patterns that don't serve your potential. Alignment, on the other hand, often feels uncomfortable at first because it requires honesty. It requires change. But in the long term, it's the only thing that leads to fulfillment. Everything else is just noise. To restart your life, you can't bring the herd with you. You can't lead and follow. You can't lead at the same time. There comes a point where you have to separate, not out of pride, but out of necessity. Because the truth is, most people won't understand your vision, and they don't need to. It's not their vision, it's yours. That means your job is not to explain. Your job is to walk it, to build it, to live it fully, with or without applause. And here's the thing, once you start doing that, the right people will find you. The right opportunities will align, because clarity attracts, purpose leads, and lions don't beg to be seen. They are seen because they own who they are. So, if you're standing at the edge of a life you no longer want, wondering whether it's too late to restart, the answer is no. It's not too late. But it does require something rare. It requires that you stop following, that you take the risk of being misunderstood, that you lead yourself with courage, with purpose, and with truth. Because the lion doesn't chase approval. The lion becomes undeniable